Let's talk 12 by 12 paper organization. Hey y'all, I'm Elisa, the Scrappy Wife behind ScrappyWife.com, and when I gave my full brand new craft room tour a few weeks ago, I shared that one of the areas that I wasn't really feeling totally secure in was my 12 by 12 paper organization. It's organized mostly, but I'm not pleased with the location of my 12 by 12 paper and how difficult it is to pull out. I have some paper that needs to be organized into the envelopes and storage systems that I like. And so I want to do a couple of videos as I prepare for a great paper switcheroo. So I'm moving the location of my 12 by 12 paper thanks to one of you all who made a wonderful suggestion that I can't believe I didn't think of, and I'm very excited to dive into. So what I want to do today is kind of a cleaning and organizing day. I'm going to show you the system I use for my 12 by 12 collections. We're going to organize some new collections into the envelopes and the systems that I love and get things cleaned out with scraps and all of that. And then in part two, I'm going to do the great switcheroo, and we're going to relocate the paper and use some new containers that were suggested to me that I'm pretty excited about. So that's what's happening today. Why don't you pull out some of your things that you're wanting to organize and kind of organize along with me? Let's talk 12 by 12 paper. Let me just give you a quick rundown on the current situation. So a lot of my 12 by 12 paper, in fact, my favorite collections are stored in this piece, which is working pretty well, but you can see the collections. I love using these envelopes, but they are, some of the collections are spilling out of the envelopes. I have too many pieces stored in there. We're going to do some cleaning out of those today, but this is actually a shoe organization container that works really well for my 12 by 12 paper. The biggest issue though is that the rest of my 12 by 12 paper is located in here, and I don't like that it's kind of all jumbled in there. There's things that are not in the correct envelopes, and so that's what we're going to work on today. And then this is the paper that's going to end up getting relocated. All right, so step one, I have several different collections. I actually went to a scrapbook expo right before I moved, had fun shopping, and have new collections that never got organized. So I need to get those into these storage studio envelopes. I love these envelopes. I have used them for years to hold collections, and they just work really well. I like to keep collections together for the most part. So these are 12 by 12 envelopes, and I will unpack them, put them in here, get them labeled, and get the new collections organized. Okay, first things first, I'm going to open up all of the new envelopes that I picked up. These come 3 to a pack. Yes, I end up using a lot of them. I use one per collection, but this system has worked well for me for years. I like keeping the full collection together and then organizing by brand after that. I find that the original plastic wrapping that most scrapbook collections come in just doesn't hold up. Taking papers in and out of it, it starts to break down, it rips, and doesn't hold the collection well for an extended amount of time. And I don't generally use a whole collection all at once. So I like having something sturdy that allows me to move around my 12 by 12 paper pretty darn easily. In my old craft room, I had these all organized on a big shelf in my craft closet. And that was pretty good because I could flip through almost file folder like to see what I had, look for something that inspired me. And that worked really nicely. In the new space, I didn't really have a place like that that made sense to me at first. And so I came up with that new shoe storage system that actually folds out to hold the 12 by 12 paper. It works pretty well. That's where some of my favorite collections go, but I'm not sure if it's the best solution possible. So that's why I am going to kind of clean out what I have. I'm going to put it into the envelopes that I know I love. And then in the next video, we're going to kind of reconsider where things should be positioned in the craft studio. I'm doing my best with my current organization projects to show you all that it really does take time, and oftentimes this can't be accomplished in one sitting. It took me a couple of hours to sort through all of this paper, to move things around. I made a huge mess, just like always happens when you're organizing. I now have a huge stack of ephemera pieces that I pulled from these collections that needs to be organized separately. One organization project often leads into another, and sometimes you can't finish it all in one sitting. I had to do this part of the organization before I could start considering how I'm going to move it, what system I'm going to use, what boxes I'm going to use, all of that. It takes steps, and it's not necessarily a simple weekend project for a number of reasons. It takes time. It takes money. I've had several people in the past tell me, oh, well, if I had to buy all these storage pockets for my collections that I've gathered over the years, that would be too expensive. And I agree. Buying them all at once is crazy. I don't often buy them all at once. I buy a few every few months and then kind of gather them up so that it's not this humongous expense. I just start transitioning things over. And so it's important to know, even when you're watching things here on YouTube, that it's not an easy process. It does take me time as well. And there's times that you're going to organize something, like when I originally organized this craft studio, and you think you have a solution, and then the solution just ends up not being the right choice. It's not the thing that's going to end up working in the end. And your style of crafting changes, the way you like to move around your space changes, and that's going to change your organization needs as well. Now, something you're going to notice me doing is breaking apart paper pads. I don't love to buy 12 by 12 paper pads, but I do from time to time. And I actually prefer to break them apart. I rip off every individual piece of paper and get rid of the outer covering because I think it takes up less space and I think it's easier to pull papers from. And so I separate the whole stack. You can see me right here, sort, 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 take them all apart, and it's just easier to grab the paper in the end. I don't want the full paper pads together because it just, I don't know, I feel like it hinders the creative process. Plus, if I do find that I need to clean out my paper, that I don't want all this 12 by 12 paper, that I don't like all the pieces within a paper pad, I can then discard the ones that I don't think I will actually use and keep the ones that will work with my crafting style. And then I can destash those, give those to someone else. So I just like to break apart those full books, and I find it easier to create in that way. As I was working my way through these collections, I also worked to pull out pieces that I thought were no longer usable in the collection. I'm going to call those scraps at this point. Some scraps that are larger I kept with the collection. Some scraps that were smaller I took out. I don't know that I have a tried and true rule that works every single time for when I remove it from the collection and when I keep it in the collection. It just was kind of a feeling, just deciding if I thought I'd be able to use it or not. When I removed the scraps, I hate to waste any of this gorgeous paper. I'm a paper lover, and so I don't want to waste any of this beautiful paper. So I put it all in a big pile of scraps that I'm actually going to sort through later and explain to you how I use my scrap collection system and how it works for me. The other thing that I ended up doing with many of these collections, I ended up removing ephemera. Now, I've gone back and forth on this over the years. Sometimes I've kept ephemera collections with the actual paper collection so that when I pull this whole folder, everything's together, everything that goes with that, it makes it easy. However, that's harder to store because the folders get bulky and they don't lay nice, and it's not my fave. So I've gone back and forth. Right now, I have a different ephemera storage system that I am liking very much, and I'm going to take all the ephemera from these collections and move it to that particular storage system. I think that's going to work better for me. I think it's going to help me use ephemera a little bit more in other projects outside of just using the 12 by 12 paper. Like I'll be able to pull these for planner spreads a little bit easier and for journaling when I may not be pulling the individual paper collections. So here's hoping that that ends up working well. I also want to say that anytime you take the time to organize, resort, relabel things in your craft studio, it's kind of like reintroducing yourselves to that category of supplies. This was wonderful to get reminded of all of the different paper collections I have. I missed some of them. With them being in that closed cabinet down low in my studio, I just wasn't seeing them. Everything was behind closed storage with the paper, and that is not a recipe for success for me personally. I like to see my supplies, and that's how I get inspired. So it's good to know that I'm still like that. I'm also getting over this concept. I had in my head a concept that I wanted most of my supplies in this half of my studio where my desk was, and I wanted other supplies that I don't grab for all the time in the other half of the studio. But the truth is, I don't know that that really makes sense. I do move around my studio pretty frequently. Yes, I film on this desk and craft on this desk, but as I'm prepping to craft, I just grab a bunch of stuff from all over. So I don't think it's going to be a big deal if I end up moving my 12 by 12 paper into the room that's open that you can see right there to the left of the screen. I think I'll still be able to grab it. And actually, when I'm sitting, I'll be able to see it. Not up close, but I'll be reminded, oh, hey, do I want to grab for some 12 by 12 paper? So I think in the end, the visual part is going to help me more than having it close at hand. Getting up and having to move across the room, that'll be okay because I can simply pull these paper collections. It's one of the reasons I love these plastic sleeves so much is it just allows you to very easily pull the paper collection over to wherever you are working. I also found that I needed to redo some of the labels that I had on these sleeves. It's one of the reasons I do like them because I like the sleeves because it's very easy to put a label on and pull it off. I wanted to update the labels not only with the maker, with the brand, like I had before, but I also wanted to have it labeled with the collection name because it really makes sense to kind of gather it all together. I used to not have as many different collections. So labeling by brand made sense because I could have a couple of different Maggie Holmes folders or Felicity Jane or whatever it might be. Well, my collection has grown. And so not only do I need the brand, but I need the collection name on there as well. It took me a while to actually sort the collections that were in my shoe storage container because those are my most used collections. They had the most scrap pieces in them. They had the most random bits and pieces. Like I had grabbed things from, like extra solid paper. It had just gotten to be a little bit of a mess. It's been a hot second since I really went through my 12 by 12 paper storage. And I feel like resetting up this craft room, taking some time to really, really refine my organization is just going to help so much. I think you probably need to take once a year, at least probably twice a year, give yourself some time to update your systems. Even if you love your systems, they need some maintenance over time. So update your systems, revamp what's working, what's not working, and reorient yourself with your craft room supplies. This I found to be very invigorating. When you aren't feeling super creative, maybe you're feeling a little burned out, maybe a little tired, organization really helps me out in that manner. Okay, I am going to finish sorting through all of these and then I'm going to show you my really big scrap pile that started to form. I know so many of us have trouble letting go of scraps. I absolutely understand that. And that's why I'm going to show you how I like to sort mine into colors. I do have a whole video when I originally set up this sorting system for my scrap paper that you can check out. It is from years ago on my channel, and this is definitely one of the systems that I have kept over time. I'd also love if down below you shared how you like to sort your scrapbook paper or your scrap paper because I know there's lots of different systems out there and I'd love to know what works well for you. All right, so I've made a ton of great progress organizing the collections into those envelopes or those sleeves that you saw, but I pulled out a bunch of scraps, bits and pieces from the collection that I think it's time to put them into my scrap containers. So these are what I use to organize my scraps. They are actually dry erase pockets, and I got them from the Dollar Tree a long time ago. They're meant for kids or classrooms to put in a worksheet, and then they can work with a dry erase marker and then wipe it off. Then I added pockets to the front of them, clear pockets to hold smaller scraps, and I have one kind of for each color. This one's blue, rainbow, black, greens are right here, white, pinks, reds, orange, and yellow, and brown. So I'm going to take this set of scraps that I have right here, and I'm going to start cutting it down and sorting. And what I decide is, if I look through all the scraps and think, can I use this again? Will I use this again? A piece like this will most likely not get used again. It's already pretty cut up. And something small like this may or may not get used. But if it seems like a usable piece, I will try to cut it into a usable shape and then sort it into color categories. And then that way I can get it into the scraps. So I'm going to put you all on fast forward as I kind of work through my stack and sort through the scraps. Okay, so a few frequently asked questions that I get when I'm talking about scrap papers. First of all, what size do you consider keeping? I consider keeping, it's less about size and more about shape. Is it a shape that I can use in the future? And yes, that includes some smaller shapes because I like to put together all kinds of layered pieces. So small shapes work as well. I tend to cut those random pieces, the ones that don't look like anything. I cut them into like a rectangle shape. It just makes it easier to work with later. The other question I get a lot is, if the paper is double-sided, what side do you choose? Well, I have a couple of different answers to that. If there is a side that I definitely prefer, like a pattern or whatever, a print that I love significantly more than what's on the other side, well, I go with that side. But in general, I go with the more solid colored side. So if there's a side that has, a definite yellow scheme to it, I go with that instead of picking one that's multicolored. Here's my thought process on that. These solid colors, I know I'm going to be able to use again in some different manners. Patterns and prints don't necessarily go with different collections. They're harder to use those particular scrap pieces when you're just thinking in scraps. So I tend to just, I don't know, I get pulled more towards the solid color, and that's what I'm working with here. I'm quickly making decisions, quickly sorting them. I'm trying not to overthink it. I just go with the original color that jumps out at me. I also have what I call the rainbow pile, meaning a multicolored pattern that doesn't necessarily fit into one category. So I go with that. If there is a pattern that has multiple colors, but a color is dominating, for instance, it's mostly red or mostly blue, I go with that color. So I don't know that these are hard and fast rules. I just know that this is where I go with it. And then making the quick decisions is super important because it's so easy to get bogged down into these projects. I just look at it, think, where would I go? If I were looking for this paper, I would automatically be thinking pink. That's what I go. It goes in the pink pile. Once I have all of the scraps sorted, you can see I'm sorting them into my dry erase pockets. This has worked so well. And they're pretty because I can see the scraps. Again, visual has always been really important for me. So it's nice to get these sorted, and it feels like a fresh scrap pile to pull from, which kind of makes me want to make some things using just scrap paper. All right, so good progress was made. These are all the updated scrap holders that have new fresh scraps in them. We have organization in here. Things were cleaned out and properly labeled, which is fantastic. And then we have some piles over here. These are the ones that we're going to start relocating. That's going to be in another video, so stay tuned for more info on that. That is going to do it for paper organization part 1. It was a lot about cleaning it out, getting it freshened up. And then part 2, we're going to do a big switcheroo as to where the paper is located in here, bring in some new storage containers. So stay tuned for that coming up. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Consider hitting that subscribe button as well as the bell notification button. I will link the supplies that I used in this video down in the description box below. All right, I hope that you have a fabulous day. And as always, keep it creative.